There was recently a cyber physical fabric summit with people from all around the world inputting into what could become the next iteration of the World Wide Web. And there was talk of things like creating an internet for the metaverse, and the chat just exploded. I've never seen anything like it at any other event, as the ideas and the examples just poured out. And one of the things that emerged really clearly from the day was the need for boundary spanning leadership. So we need leaders who can see the system of systems that we live in and understand how what they do fits within it. So to me, that means that we need people who can see the world differently. So people who can imagine things like an internet for the metaverse for a start. And we need to bring those people together so that they can bounce ideas off each other. Because I don't believe that a group of people who see the world in the same way can come up with massive leaps of unique and innovative ideas. They can obviously continuously improve, but it's always just going to be to the limit of what their imaginations can perceive. And I think that we take for granted that we evolve in a fairly logical fashion. But there are books out there like Thinking Fast and Slow that tell us that our lives are based on luck, much more than we would care to admit. And that's because it's scary to admit that. Because change doesn't happen in a steady fashion. It happens in unpredictable leaps. And evolution itself is based on mutations. So if we put together people who think differently, then the likelihood is that they will have new radical ideas. And that could be through arguing or through constructive discussion, as they kind of explain to each other why one idea will work and why another idea won't work, and they challenge each other. But that presumes a space of trust where those challenging discussions can take place and where everybody feels free to voice their differing opinion and they don't feel attacked or disadvantaged if it's challenged. So what I'm talking about here is creating an enabling environment where what we describe as luck can actually become synchronicity in the Jaworski sense. And I think that we need more women leaders creating those spaces of trust and the enabling environments. And we need more women within them contributing their view of the world. But I'm not actually just talking about women. I mean benefiting from the input of all people who see the world in a different way. So, for example, I know someone that thinks that dyslexia is the next evolution of mankind because of the gifts that it bestows on the people who have it. They can sort of see things from a height, or they have an overview, and they've got brilliant skills in things like project management or communication and visualization skills. So that means that they're good at explaining to others what it is that they can see, and they naturally think in a systemic way. And he believes that it will be people who can think like that who will solve the global issues, like, for example, climate change. But complex issues like the climate crisis, like biodiversity loss, and even, for example, the COVID-19 pandemic, they're only going to be solved by systems thinking, by integration, and by collaboration. And that's because an intervention in one part of the system is going to have consequences in another part of the system. And the state of the world at the moment, where the total mass of the built environment exceeds that of all living things on Earth, demonstrates to me that the way that we've been running things until now is not working. And so what I've been asking myself is it likely that the people who brought us to this point are the people who are going to be able to get us out of it, to come up with new solutions and to change their behaviour quickly enough to get us out of it? So I think that to survive, we're going to have to move to a circular economy. And I think that will entail new economic models and business models. For example, like Kate Raworth's donut economics. And at the moment, I think that our systems are based on creating things for people to buy, but I don't think that that can last. And I think lots of people are focused on the future of work, the where and the how. But I think that first we need to address why we work. And I think that will change with a circular economy. So recently, a group of us in the UK created those spaces and brought together those people who see the world differently from across the built environment, and they bounced ideas off each other. And together, we created a shared destination as we emerged from COVID. And what they came up with was our vision for the built environment. And it states that the explicit purpose of the built environment is to enable people and nature to flourish together for generations. And in order to do that, we need to see and manage the built environment as a system of systems which provides services that improves outcomes for people and nature. So in other words, we need to put people and nature at the heart of how we design, manage, build, and use our existing built environment. So I keep referring to this system of systems. So what do I mean when I say systems of systems, particularly when I'm talking about the built environment? So that is recognizing that social and economic infrastructure are complex systems in themselves, but they're also inextricably linked. And they sit in the natural environment, which is also made up of lots of complex systems, and the two are inextricably linked. And now we're starting to see cyber physical infrastructure, like digital copies of physical assets, and that's adding a further dimension. And we need people who can see that complete system of systems and have the skills to navigate it. And then we need those people to be ready and prepared to step forward and lead. So I recently said to someone that I actually see humans and the people around me as a system of systems. So each person to me is like a universe that has planets sort of rotating around them. And someone recently sent me the illustration by the French comic artist Emma of the concept of the mental load for women. And it basically seemed to describe that concept, but in a different way. So she describes, but with pictures, so much more eloquently than I'm going to do now, but that women tend to be project managers at home. So in my own words, it shows how our interaction on the home front can be seen as leading and managing a highly interconnected system of systems where we are in charge of ensuring that everybody within it achieves their outcomes with a long-term vision in mind. And then if I add to that in my own personal sphere, those who are managing households are at the forefront of adapting how they manage and operate their homes to help save the planet. They're leading the charge to tackle climate change in their own lives, in those of their families, and the next generation. All I'm talking about here is just things like becoming vegetarian or even partly vegetarian, or buying eco-friendly cleaning products, or even using vinegar, or doing things like cutting down and trying to eliminate their use of plastic. And that's just one of the reasons why I think that it's vital that women are included in those trusted spaces, and they're giving their views and they're helping us to make those leaps to resolve these massive issues like climate change. And I wanted to end just by sharing with you my emerging from isolation moments. And I've been inspired to do this by watching the other videos. So it must have just been a particular time and place in my life, but it was actually Disney's Moana that gave me that moment of insight and inspiration. And there's a line in one of the songs that says, "And the call isn't out there at all, it's inside me." And it was actually a scary and isolating moment for me, because I finally realised that I hadn't been trying to prove something to anyone all of these years, that there was no one and no thing, there was just me. And the thing that's been driving me, the voice that always calls me on, is actually me. And it's coming from within me. And at the same time, it was one of the most empowering moments of my life, because I realised how strong and powerful that call is and what it's driven me to achieve in my life. And now that I've recognised it, what more could I achieve? And we all have that voice inside us calling us on. So although I am panicked about biodiversity loss and climate crisis, I believe that we can resolve it, and that together there isn't anything that we can't achieve, especially if we all help each other to recognise that voice inside us and create those spaces for that voice to be heard. However, and this is the crucial part, it's only if we respond in a connected and coordinated way so that we don't all get called in a different direction. And that's where the boundary spanning leadership comes in. We need to see and understand how our individual calls come together in that system of systems to accelerate change and create that future that we want.